This is a More Than Just Podcast production.
Welcome to Spotcast Season 9, Episode 13. My name is Dimitra. I am in Toronto, Ontario, and I am joined by Jonathan Kuline in Florenceville, Bristol, New Brunswick.
Hello there, kids.
And I'm also joined by Jaime Lopez Jr. in Seattle, Washington.
How's it going?
Going well. All right, so we have some fact check from last week, a lot of fact check, actually. So James Gandolfini played Tony Soprano, not John Gandolfini, as I said on the show, and I think I totally mashed his son's name, Michael, I think.
I have to tell you, I thought I heard James Gandolfini, so I didn't correct at all. So he just went right past me.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, yeah, I was probably mumbling at the time. Anyway, the other thing, too, is Ron Bloor was the painter, famous Canadian painter that I didn't study on him particularly. A lot of my friends who did painting during the school year studied with him. I'm trying to remember. He was part of the Regina something or other group. Like, you know how they had the group of 7, they had the Regina 12. Oh, yeah, Painters 11 he was part of. Oh, sorry, Regina 5, part of the Regina 5. He's the one that did the white on white, famously white on white painting. So I don't know if that was an homage to him or not, but probably totally not intended, I guess, whatever we call it. I'm losing my ability to talk here today. And then Shameless is the name of the show that takes place in Chicago that I was trying to remember, couldn't remember. Starred William H. Macy, Jeremy Allen White, who we know from The Bear now, and Emmy Rossum. And Zach McGowan played Jody in the first couple of seasons of that show. He was Dognaught in The Boys last week. He's the guy that caught Maverick, I think was his name, kid's name.
Yep.
Right.
And he's been in previous stuff too with The Boys.
And I do have a side note here, but I didn't fill it in, so let me just really quickly grab that. Shameless. I just want to point out that if you play any of the later Star Wars games, Cameron Monaghan is the model and the face of the Jedi games that we play, John?
Yeah. Jedi Survivor.
Kid.
Yep.
Yeah, that's Cameron Monaghan. He's quite a prominent role in the Shameless franchise too. He plays one of the kids. Yeah, he
was on Gotham as well. Yeah.
And then Brian Eno was in Roxy Music. I couldn't remember the name of the band he was with. That's, famous, a progressive or new wave band. And Daniel Lanois and Brian Eno worked together on they worked together on the Apollo soundtrack and the subsequent additional tunes that they did for the re-release. But famously, Brian Eno and Daniel Lanois as a pair are quite good producers, and you might know their work from some of the later Talking Heads and some of the U2 stuff where they worked as producers. And then I think these other ones are from you, Jonathan.
They sure are. Just a couple of things. You were having a discussion about the new Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones movie and discussing Aegon's conquest. And weren't sure which Aegon. I think you worked out that it was Aegon the First, but weren't really sure sort of how that became the story. And it's told in the show and in the books that Aegon the First brought his family over from Valyria to Westeros. He's Aegon the Conqueror, the one who basically united the kingdoms and became the first sort of king of all the 7 kingdoms. Although originally it was the 6 kingdoms, but he's the one that came over there, and it's because he, like so many of the Targaryens, had visions. He could see the future, and he foresaw that there was going to be this cataclysm. And so that's why he left. And of course, once they were all there, then Valyria did in fact suffer the cataclysm that killed everybody else. And so that's why there's only sort of a handful of Valyrians in Westeros. You were discussing Top Gun 3, and someone, I believe, said, Jonathan is going to be so happy to hear this. I am, in fact, not happy to hear this. This is not good news for me. More Top Gun content. Not happy about that. You were talking about Bill Pullman's son, who is in Thunderbolts and going to be in the new Spaceballs sequel. His name is Lewis Pullman. And just a question follow-up, which was, you were discussing the Spaceballs sequel, Spaceballs the new one, and part of the original deal that Mel Brooks made with George Lucas when he asked him if he would mind if he spoofed Star Wars there was 2 conditions. One, he wasn't allowed to dress Lone Star like Han Solo, so he dressed him like Indiana Jones. That's why he wears a leather jacket, because Bell was being funny. And the other was they were not allowed to make merchandise, and that's why it's so funny that in the movie they're talking about all the merchandise they're going to make, and they never made any merchandise officially because they weren't allowed as part of the deal to use the somewhat likenesses of Star Wars. But my question is, I haven't seen anywhere this written down. I don't know if you two have seen it either, but now that deal with Lucas, which may or may not have been a formal written agreement or may have been a more casual agreement, now that George no longer owns Star Wars, does that mean that we could actually get some Spaceball toys and Spaceball merch out of you guys? I think we're talking about a Spaceballs, the popcorn bucket, Spaceballs, the movie glasses, Spaceballs, like you could really merch the heck out of it.
Yeah, the show art was Spaceballs the money, right?
Yeah,
the bag of money.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, I'm curious whether they can actually make, like, finally we could get a Lone Star and Barf action figures in the Winnebago playset, yeah.
I think you can get a Winnebago and make your own playset,
I mean, yeah, but it's got to have wings or it's not the real one, right?
True, that's true. Nacelles, I think, right?
The interesting thing is, if I recall, they had in movie the T-shirt, the coloring book, the lunchbox, the breakfast cereal, the doll, and the flamethrower, which has got to be the one that we have to make happen, right?
Yes. And then we see Dark Helmet playing with the action figures too, which again only made for that. I as a nerdy kid was like, I would buy the set. I would buy the whole set. They would be awesome. But no, they were never allowed to make merch.
Yeah, they would definitely be on your Christmas list.
Mm-hmm.
I really do hope, and I do think it would be good to get the popcorn bucket, assuming it literally is just black and says Spaceballs, the popcorn bucket.
Yeah, it's just such a perfect. It's a perfect. I laughed when you said that last week, Jaime, and I was like, "That is genius," because it's so minimalist. It would take so little effort, and it would be such a big, like, kind of tongue in cheek to these like ornate, the Dune and all these crazy popcorn buckets, the Wolverine and the Deadpool and all that. To have one that's just, that's all it is just a regular popcorn bucket that just says Spaceballs, the popcorn bucket. Brilliant.
So what you do is when you go to see this in theaters, you make your own Spaceballs, the popcorn bucket.
There you go.
And you buy the popcorn and you put it in the bucket and you walk around the theater with it, and people will be like, "Hey, wait!"
Or instead, you make 10 of them and you sell them outside the theater.
Oh, hey, now you're talking.
I mean, no copyright violation. Nothing,
if you got to make one, you got to make 10, right? Yeah, exactly.
Well, you never know if some of the other people are going to want them,
You could sell them on eBay. I mean, you could just, like, the day the movie comes out, you can just sort of say, "Oh, you didn't get the popcorn bucket?" Yeah.
This seems like an Etsy
Never
project.
mind Etsy.
Yeah.
No, never mind Etsy. eBay's where you make the money.
Oh, okay.
Because you charge them $1 gazillion for shipping and stuff, right?
Oh, right. That's true. Cool.
Well, that brings us to the headlines where, guess what we're going to talk about next? Spaceballs, the new one, has a release date of April 23rd, 2027. So got lots of time to get those popcorn buckets made up.
As a matter of fact, you have precisely 1 year
t-shirts.
from when we're recording this, so there you go.
Can you not get a Spaceballs the t-shirt kind of thing made?
I mean, you probably can get stuff that's not official.
Well, so you know what I'm going to do? This is what I'm going to do, right? I just had an idea for a new MTJC
Spockcast, the movie bucket?
No, let's do a Spaceballs the t-shirt.
As long as you don't mind getting sued, sure.
I don't mind the odd cease and desist. It's not the first time.
I do have, I'm proud to say I do have one piece of Spaceballs related merch from back in the day. I own a copy of Spaceballs the novel. And it actually says Spaceballs the novel. It's the novelization of the movie. I bought it back when I was a kid, just because I thought that was super funny. It was the only Spaceball merch I'd ever seen.
I mean, black ink is expensive.
That's true. Big cost there.
Speaking of strange reveals, Jaime.
Yeah, we've got this article here from arstechnica.com, which is talking about the Silo Season 3 teaser. Did you all see this?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's backwards.
It's stylish. Not just backwards, like, oh, they're going back in time. It's like they are like rewinding the tapes, Spaceball style, right? They're kind of just going back, which is kind of a stylistically interesting way to show that. But we do see I guess spoilers, a bit of like the greenery of what the world was like before the devastation, as this article puts it. You all see that, so it's kind of fascinating to see how do we get from, I don't know, regular people in a regular bar in Washington D.C. to the greenery to the silo that we know and love.
Yeah, so having read the books, this is definitely a big chunk of the second book Shift that sort of talks about how they got to where they got to. It does digress. It's interesting because you're like, well, that's weird because it means they're going to kind of sideline all the drama that we're going through in the present time in the show, but it actually builds really well. It actually is a really well told portion of the story and kind of is important to understand how we got there. So it will be a bit of a digression from the previous two seasons, and I think some people might be a little ticked off. I'm not sure if they're going to do it a little differently than the books and maybe tell consecutive narratives, so you might see like some of the present time and some of the past, or mix it up a little bit differently. But it looks really compelling, and the story of sort of how they got there and why everything is as it is actually really, really told well in the stories by Hugh Howey. So I think this is going to be it's hard to say. Some people I think will be ticked that if we're not spending as much time with Rebecca Ferguson and the characters we've come to enjoy, but it's a really cool story as to sort of how they got there.
Yeah, so this is, you're talking about the books, because I'm sort of halfway through the first one. What's it called? Heat or Weed or something.
First one is called Dirt, and the second one is called Shift.
Is it called Dirt?
What's it called? I got it right. Wool. Sorry, Wool is the first one. Wool, and then Shift, and then Dust. I was thinking of Dust as the third one. Yeah, they're highly recommended.
Mm-hmm.
Really good reads.
So,
don't mind spoilers.
Stats that people want to know, or facts people want to know. It's coming down to Apple TV on July 3rd. And it is, according to this article, been renewed for its fourth and final season. So if people are wondering, it's looks like given the number of books they have, they're just going to line it up right there with the real classic. Just spread this out for one more thing.
It makes
Harry
sense.
Potter, 7 books, let's make it 8 movies.
Yeah.
This is 3 books, make it 4 seasons.
It's good that they didn't stretch it out too far, but also, I mean, when you consider who's involved with it, Rebecca Ferguson's a movie star. I don't think she would have wanted to be committed for even more. So yeah, it makes sense.
All right, and then so this one I put up here for you guys, and I'm sort of thinking, I know one of my friends will not want to watch this movie because of the creepy sort of morphing thing, but I have no idea who Clayface is. But it was a very strange trailer. So yeah, and a DC movie. So who knows where they're going?
I could tell you.
Sort of a melty face guy, right?
Yeah, it would definitely help if you were familiar with BTAS, the Batman the Animated Series version of Clayface, and how sad and morose that is. This seems to be in line with that, but more body horror-esque.
100%. 100%. Yeah. No, that's really well said, Jaime. I mean, Batman the Animated Series is criminally underrated for the people that haven't seen it. It is one of the most brilliant pieces of television. Paul Dini, Bruce Timm, the people that created that show and wrote on it, did a masterful job of building up the backstories and the pathos of the characters that are around Batman, his villains, his friends, his family. They really did a good job of building that up in that series. And two of the characters that really, really stepped up, that previously were kind of okay characters, Mr. Freeze and Clayface, both got really big, focused stories about just the tragedy of them, that they didn't want to be bad guys. It was kind of circumstance that led them down bad paths, and the Clayface story is a really, really, really compelling one. If you have the opportunity, it's on a lot of streaming services if you want to check it out. It's really, really beautifully told, heartbreaking, yet dark. But here, you're right, Jaime, they've kind of gone for something that's more along the lines of something you'd expect to see from like Blumhouse. Like, it looks like a body horror. It looks a little bit like what was that movie that came out with Margaret Qualley and
Substance.
The Substance. It looks like something like that in this, like, the idea that your body is slowly, I mean, it's a little bit Franz Kafka, right? It's your body slowly transforming and whatever, and what that does to you. But Yeah, it's such an interesting call by James Gunn and DC to do this, given that it's essentially going to be a horror movie, and it's centered around a Batman villain, but it doesn't seem to have Batman necessarily. Maybe Batman is in it and we don't know yet, or maybe this is all just set up for something bigger, but it's a real swerve to have that be the third movie out of the gate. It's Superman, and then Supergirl, and then Clayface. Like, just, that is so out of left field.
Wasn't the Joker sort of the same sort of thing? Like it came out of nowhere sort of thing?
Yeah, I don't think people expected Joker to do what it did. I mean, the first one was quite lauded and won Oscars. The second one was panned and won raspberries. But I think people were kind of questioning. I certainly was. Would anybody really want to see a Joker movie without a Batman in it? I didn't, and I haven't. But it's interesting that they choose to do these kinds of things. You know, is it a completely standalone story? Will Clayface appear in the larger thing? Honestly, if he doesn't, I think that's even better. I think if they just tell these like little weird one-off, like pick a good character. DC Comics has been around for 100 years. There are hundreds and hundreds of great characters with cool stories to expand on and tell in different media. Why not? Like, do something cool, but then like maybe let the people know that, yeah, this is all set in the same universe, but it doesn't have to be like interconnected the way Marvel is, where like, oh, this matters. Like, it doesn't. Just tell a great story. And that seems to be what they've done here. They've hired a really good horror director. They've hired, and they've made a movie that looks scary as hell. So yeah, go for it. Like, hit those different quadrants with your different movies. Don't be afraid of that.
Yeah, so I want to ask about Mr. Freeze. Like, so before Otto Preminger and Arnold Schwarzenegger ruined the role, was it a decent portrayal in the books, like before in the early 60s, I guess?
Mr. Freeze was always kind of just like a one-trick pony kind of character in the pre-1980s timeline. Was, a guy with a freeze ray and didn't have a lot of backstory or anything else. It was Paul Dini who wrote the Batman the Animated Series episode, where he gave him this very tragic backstory of his wife suffered from a severe and debilitating illness that was going to kill her. He ended up having to put her into sort of a cryogenic sleep so that her illness wouldn't advance. So she was basically frozen. He was working on all this technology to try and cure her. In the end, he had to go to pretty extreme levels to try and help her, which turned him to the life of crime. But again, it was done out of love. So they created this very rich tapestry of this sort of tragic, he turned to the life of crime and he eventually becomes this villain, but it's all based around the idea that he's doing this out of love. That was not part of the story in the comic books. It's come around to become that, and they've told some great stories since then. But this is, Jaime nailed it right off the top. This is Batman the Animated Series, which again was a weekday afternoon kids show. Like, this was really, really brilliant writing. I've had a chance to meet and interview Paul Dini before, and he was just firing on a whole other level on that show. This is the same person who went on to write the Arkham games that were all so popular on video game systems. So, I mean, this is somebody who gets the characters and really, gives you something out of these things. And yeah, I have nothing but admiration for the fact that they're going to try and just tell a great story, and hopefully, people respond to that. And if people don't go, I don't think they're going to be missing anything that they aren't going to be like, well, I have to watch Clayface even though I don't like horror. If you don't like horror, you don't like Clayface, skip it. I think that's James Gunn's point. Cool.
Well, this next one is kind of really confusing in that. Yeah. And again, I kind of looked at it and thought, well, is this AI or whatever? But I do know that there is a Doctor Who group on the Facebook and various places like that and YouTube, and they say like and subscribe and all that kind of stuff. And so we saw in the last Christmas special, I think it was Christmas special, we saw that the Doctor, or in the end of the Ncuti Gatwa series, the Doctor transforms into Billie Piper, or someone who looks like Billie Piper, as we find out in this trailer. But so this is a trailer sort of showing a new season of Doctor Who with Billie Piper and this young child. It's interesting you could have a woman with a young child and not ask questions. But I'll leave that for the big question later. But so I don't know if you guys watched this thing, but it seems like we're going to get a full season of Doctor Who. But where is it going to air? Maybe BBC 4, but like where in North America?
Well, that is the question.
Question mark? Question? I should say question, like they do on Hail Mary. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're right. It still hasn't been made clear where it's coming here, which is a real question mark. If it ends up on something like BritBox, that would stink, because then we would have to make another subscription. But so far they have not clarified that. As for the trailer, it's pretty confusing because they make it clear that, you know, this is the Doctor. She is wearing Rose's face, but explicitly says in the trailer, I'm wearing this face. It's somebody from my past. I shouldn't be wearing this face. So there's sort of that mystery of, you know, I mean, although I feel like they kind of went down this road by bringing back Tennant's Doctor during the anniversary special stuff, where it's like, oh, why are you back? Like, well, why is Rose back? I don't know. I don't love it. And yet, you know, there seemed like some really cool stuff in there. That being said, I tripped over exactly what you mentioned off the hop there, Tim. The whole Lone Wolf and Cub thing for the 50 billionth time. You know, honestly,
Yeah.
I think I'm more disappointed with that than I am impressed by anything else. I'm like, oh, good. Do we really need another? I'm traveling with a kid, the kid's at risk, but the kid's learning on the adventure. And then, oh my Lord, like, we're coming off of so, like, Mandalorian and Grogu is that, you know, the Mandalorian TV show is that. We've got that in The Last of Us. Like, we've had so many stories over the past few years that are focused on, you know, young person traveling with adults, you know, oh, it's a journey, but they're really protective of this person and they learn along the way and they learn a lot about themselves too. And oh, kill me.
I guess it's cute to have a kid, but like, you know, yeah, do they have a tutor on this show? Or yeah, I'm sure they do, but I mean, in the TARDIS.
Jaime, how about you?
I mean, that was brought up by Morty in one of the early seasons of, like, he doesn't know anything. He has no education because Rick takes him out of school constantly, so he doesn't have any of the classes and learning that people his age would normally have. They kind of just sort of worked past that, but that was a, like, I don't know anything. You take me out of class all the time. Like, that would happen here in the real world, unless there's, like, you know, an AI tutor inside of the TARDIS, as you hint at.
Yeah, and on a side note, the Doctor Who series are on sale right now. So if you like the Matt Smith, there's a Christopher Eccleston, David Tennant set. There's a Matt Smith set. It's a Peter Capaldi set, and there's also the Jodie Whittaker sets, right? So I don't remember, but like I think we talked about this earlier on in I think our first episode we talked about this. That Doctor Who episodes were like super expensive.
Yeah.
Back in the day, I mean, because they had to come over on a boat or something. I don't know, but yeah. So if you're interested in getting seasons, even though I think is it not on Disney now? Doctor Who, like, can you not watch it?
Nope.
So it's gone. So I think it must be on Prime or something, right? Because I know I was watching.
I think it's on a streaming service.
Catching up on Tenet.
I noticed that as well, Tim. And these are new sets that have been put together on Apple TV or app for Apple Download. And they're actually better than anything they've ever had before, because before they used to put out series, and the series wouldn't include any of the specials. These ones include everything from the era, including those Doctors. So you get all the Christmas specials, all the anniversary specials, you get like all that stuff, which is great because those used to be considered separate. So if you bought a series, it might be like $20 for a series, and then you have to pay another $4 or $5 per special. So these are are actually a pretty great deal. Now, that being said, if you want all four of the primary Doctors from the past, 15 years, that's $80. You can purchase the Ncuti Gatwa ones from Disney Plus. You can buy those on Apple now. I think it's for you could buy the first season, but not the second. The first season, I think, is $10. And then separate from that, just like I was talking about, the anniversary specials that they did for the 60th anniversary. Those are separate. Those cost a different fee. So, there's still...
Well, the 50th comes with the Matt Smith's...
That's right. The 60th ones, they actually are the Tennant ones, but the ones that introduced the Ncuti Gatwa Doctor. But those ones...
Oh, those four, you mean?
Yeah, those ones are actually separate. You have to pay for those separately from the Ncuti Gatwa seasons. So, yeah, they get you. They get you all over the place if you're a fan.
Well, get them from Disney before they go back into the vault.
That's right. Right.
Now, this next trailer, did we talk about this Supergirl thing? Because it was like, It says it's 3 weeks old on the YouTube thing. But yeah, so this was another trailer, I guess, to sort of bring us up to speed on what's going to come with the Supergirl trailer. So you guys got any comments on it? Or, I mean, it looked like she has a puppy and grows the puppy, and the puppy's a pain in the butt, and she's a pain in the butt.
And Lobo swinging the chain around, Jason Momoa. That looked pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first time we've gotten an actual bit of a plot, right? So the plot seems to hinge around the fact that it kind of explores her origins, but it really is looking at her on a rescue mission. Somebody has poisoned Crypto, and she has to go find an antidote. And that's how this sort of adventure is. It's, the heart of it is, I got to save my dog, which is probably better than I got to bring this kid with me. So, I think that's something most people can get behind is, you hurt my dog, I have to go find the cure for my dog to save my dog. I think people can invest in that. So it's a pretty winning formula. And yeah, I mean, as Jaime said, seeing Jason Momoa dressed up in the Lobo gear with the hook chain and the bike and the whole thing, that's going to be fun. And it's kind of got a Guardians of the Galaxy vibe, which makes sense given James Gunn and everything. But yeah, I mean, it looks fun. It looks like an emotional journey, as you'd expect. And Millie Alcock was fantastic in House of the Dragon. So this is kind of her real big next, huge platform for her. I mean, she's done a few things in between, but this is the next sort of big, huge thing. So if she can carry it, I think this is going to be pretty good.
Yeah, and she keeps sending her cousin Kal-El to voicemail because he should text her like a normal person would.
Nobody uses phone anymore, Kal-El. Come on, man.
Anyway, cool. Well, speaking of the Rings of Power.
Yes.
Or no, what were we talking about, Rings of Power?
Well, we're talking about Game of Thrones. Same thing.
What?
So yeah, we
different costume maker, basically. Yeah, okay, got it.
Yeah, when you were talking about Silo earlier, I remember thinking, wow, it's coming in July. That's crazy. For some reason, I thought it was going to come late in the year if we were going to get it this year. This is another one. So the folks at Hollywood Reporter have an exclusive that says that the Rings of Power Season 3, we thought we probably weren't getting until 2027, but they have a report saying that it could be the end of this year, which is good because it's been a while since we saw the last season. It was fall of 2024 when we saw the last one. So it would be a couple of years this fall anyway. So I think we'll have to see if they're correct, but I thought the last season was a pretty big improvement over the first one, and I enjoyed a lot of it. Some returning faces, some people, as you may recall, the last season was pretty bloody towards the end. There was a lot of death. There was a lot of craziness happening here. So it'll be interesting to see how they carry it forward. But yeah, we're getting, Sauron, played by Charlie Vickers, is coming back. Galadriel, by Morfydd Clark, is coming back. Robert Aramayo, who just won a BAFTA this year, is coming back as Elrond. So yeah, and Jamie Campbell Bower is coming onto the show. He was the guy who played Vecna on Stranger Things. So another British actor. So yeah, sounds like they're charged up, and hopefully we're going to get season 3 this year. They have said all along, Amazon is committed to doing a 5-season arc. They paid a ton of money to make this. They paid a ton of money for the sets. They paid a ton of money for this in general. So I think they're kind of committed to let's make this story, everything we can throw at it. So I mean, the production value has been really good, like the sets and the costumes and the sword making and everything have been top notch. So I think it'll be great. Hopefully it does come true. And speaking of swords and sorcery, we are getting an Elden Ring movie in 2028. This is kind of a non-surprise, given that this is one of the most popular video games on the planet, and it seemed pretty ripe for this kind of treatment. But it's it's going to be coming to theaters March 2028, and Alex Garland, who's done a ton of stuff over the past few years, some Alien, he did some what's the name? Annihilation. He's done a whole bunch of stuff over the past few years that are good. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what comes of this. And it's got a pretty good cast. Nick Offerman, Ben Whishaw, a whole bunch of people here. Kaylee Spiney, Tom Burke, Havana Rose Liu. Sonoya Mizuno, Jonathan Pryce, Ruby Cruz, Peter Serafinowicz. So yeah, it's like a pretty robust cast coming out of this. And so Jaime, I wanted to ask you: are you an Elden Ring fan? Are you familiar with this franchise at all?
I am, familiar with its existence in some of how it fits together with George R. R. Martin and the Souls games, the Dark Souls games. But I've never actually played this myself.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious. I'm aware that the lore is very deep. Yeah. Thus the connection with George R. R. Martin. So it's unclear how they can make a movie that helps with that sort of setting. Everybody wants a franchise, right? So I have no illusions that hopefully this is relatively self-contained, but clearly it can lead on to other things. I'm like still unclear how they're going to capture that spirit, but did have fun with the idea of like, well, if you wanted to get closer to the game experience, and given the high difficulty of the Dark Souls games and Elden Ring and stuff, I was like, oh, so let's just do like Tom Cruise with Edge of Tomorrow, the live, die, repeat thing, where you just keep losing like 20 times in a row to the same boss, and we just see that as a narrative. How about that?
Yeah,
no takers.
My daughter played this game. We have it here, and I did watch a lot of it while she was playing along. I was keeping her company, and it's a terrific looking game. There's lots of stuff. It's sort of an open world, but you're right, with lots of characters and lore and stuff like that. But a non-linear game, so you can kind of pop into parts where you're like, oh, I'm wildly outclassed in this battle, I have to get out of here, and go find magic items and power up and then come back. So it's one of those games where you have to put in a lot of time to kind of get everything in, but it's a really robust and developed. George, as you mentioned, worked on the game. He actually sort of helped flesh out sort of the width of it, so that there's a lot of lore to it. And it was a pretty impressive thing to watch. But also, I just remember thinking like, oh my god, like how much time must you have to put into it? I think it's expected that you'll put in at least 100, if not 200 hours into the game to sort of complete most of it. And if you want to do all of it, it's 200 to 250 hours to get into it. So it's not a puddle, it's a lake of content. So I haven't gotten into many of the Souls-like games. That's sort of a genre that sort of emerged over the past few years, starting with Demon Souls and sort of carrying into Bloodborne and Sekiro and stuff like that. So yeah, people are really fond of these things, and it's got a big following. So I think it could do well. I just wonder if this thing is as robust as it seems to be. I feel like maybe not a theatrical movie, maybe a TV show would have been better. I don't know. I find myself getting greedy on these things now, where I'm like, I don't want 2 hours and 20 minutes in a movie theater. I want 2 months on my couch with, give me the whole world. Maybe it's just too expensive to do that. I don't know. This one I wanted to save because I think this is worth a discussion. I don't know if you guys saw this story. So we had talked previously on the show about the fact that there was this conflict that was coming up in December where Doom 3 and Avengers Doomsday are going to open on the same day. So we got a little Barbenheimer situation going on here. But this one is complicated by the fact that Dune had that spot staked out longer, and therefore they got the release window in IMAX. So they have blocked basically IMAX for that stretch in December of this year. And so, Avengers, obviously, Avengers Doomsday is expected to be a movie that brings back the people who were, fans of Marvel a few years ago who may have dropped off. They're kind of calling it a sequel to Avengers Endgame. Saying, oh, you don't have to worry about the last 7 years, they didn't exist, and you can just dive right back into 2019. So in order to maximize their experience / payments, they've announced at, I guess this was at CinemaCon, they announced that Disney announced they are going to release something called Infinity Vision, which is now what they call the sort of supreme content format for theaters. And this is their pitch here. A new certification for premium large format or PLF theaters. Anyone in their life ever called them a PLF? If a theater is certified, it means audiences can expect the biggest, brightest, and most immersive cinematic experiences based on, quote, rigorous technical standards for screen size, image clarity, and sound. I'm thinking my local theater's probably not going to hit this bar, but it's basically like, it feels like what they're saying is, IMAX? We don't need no stinking IMAX, which just seems really sad. It just seems really pathetic, where they're like, just because we didn't want IMAX, we didn't invite IMAX to our birthday party. We don't care if IMAX comes to our birthday party. It's just so stupid. What did you guys make of this?
Well, it does seem kind of. I mean, it's unfortunate that, like, I think this has happened in the past where, I mean, not so much that people would notice, but because there's been movies that I wanted to see in IMAX that weren't available because other movies had blocked out the time, right?
Yeah, usually stupid Tom Cruise movies.
Yeah, that may be an example, but I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. Like, you know, we have that other format. What's the one that they have at Queensway?
AVX, right?
UFX or something?
Yeah, AVX.
AVX, okay.
And then they have the 40X, which is the one that their seats move and stuff, right? And they spray stuff at you.
Yeah, I will never go. I went to a movie. I saw the Fantastic Four in that format, and all I did was spill my popcorn and my drink. You know, like, it was stupid. I mean, and they spray water on you. So that the first thing I did was found the button to turn off the spraying on the water, and it was impossible. It was hard to watch because, I mean, every time they got in a car and started driving fast, your seat starts erratically moving around, right? So you can blow up a planet or you can drive a car fast, and it's the same effect. I mean, yeah, I don't get it. You know,
it's brilliant.
Anyway. No, I digress. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to sort of say. I mean, like, just as a side note here, as you were leading up to this stories, the Vision Pro has an IMAX app from the IMAX people, and the sad thing is they have not since day one put any more movies on it.
Yeah.
And all it is just it literally is a square presentation, as opposed, I mean, like a 4:3, as opposed to like letterbox, right? Or widescreen, whatever, or you know what I mean, 1080p or whatever, 4K, blah blah blah. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I really, again, like even in Toronto, we have I have 3 or 4 IMAX theaters that I can go to around here, and Scotiabank is still the best one. You know, Cinesphere was the best one. I don't know what Doug Ford is doing with it. Right?
It's going to turn it into an airplane hangar for his not airplane.
Yeah, the physical for his gravy plane. The physical size of the screens is huge, whereas, you know, Yonge and Dundas has an IMAX theater, but it's like the size of a regular theater. Like, it's just got different aspect ratio, right? So, and then, you know, if you go see a movie like we mentioned at Queensway, like it's a huge screen, but it's wide, right? So
places in your area are Yonge and or not Yonge and Dundas. It's Cinesphere, or not Cinesphere, the one down at Scotiabank, and then Vaughan. Vaughan is massive too. That one that's got the 70 millimeters presentation.
Well, the one in Mississauga is pretty good too.
It's pretty good, but that one just feels like cavernous. Like, honestly, I prefer Scotiabank to that one.
Scotiabank's probably the best one.
It's probably the best
although, like, you know, because I hadn't gone to see movies in Cinesphere, but in years. But I saw the last one. I saw some of the film festival ones, like the David Bowie movie. There was amazing in that screen, right? The screens are so big, it doesn't matter where you sit, right? You still get an amazing experience.
Absolutely.
So you have to be dead center, you know, in row F, you know, like Sheldon, you know, to get the best experience. But so I don't know. It's you know, just the way that the cookie crumbles, I guess, is the thing to say, right? So like you're not going to get it unless you sit in the first row of the Atlantic Cinema, right?
Yeah, I mean, even if I went to one of the, like, I sincerely doubt any of the theaters nearby to me will have it. Maybe Moncton. There's a theater in Moncton. There's a theater in Dieppe that have the theater in Dieppe has IMAX, but I don't know if the theater in Moncton's going to try and that's the one thing that's unclear is I haven't seen any feedback on this. If, like, you know, Cineplex is essentially a monopoly up here, right? There's some independent theaters, and then there's Cineplex. There isn't the diversity in the United States have as far as owners of cinemas. Here, if Cineplex gets on board with it, then cool, maybe they'll make, you know, like AVX, it'll become a standard or whatever, but they don't have to, right? This is essentially, they're looking, like, it seems like they're going to just slap a sticker on the door that says, this has been approved by Disney. Like, again, it just seems so petty and childish. It's like, well, we didn't need IMAX. I'm like, okay, just shut up. Like, yes, it's a bummer that you're not going to be in IMAX. Like, you can move your movie, or you can shut up. Stop being such babies about it.
It reminds me of Flash on the iPhone, that kind of, because that was the same sort of petty argument we got it initially when Steve Jobs had to come on the stage and say, we're not supporting Flash, right? And there were a whole lot of reasons why they didn't want to, but the public just looked at it as like, I want Flash, like, I want IMAX, so it's kind of damage control, I guess, before the damage gets out the door sort of thing. I mean, that's my opinion. By the way, just a quick question for Jaime. Isn't AMC sort of the big mucky mucks down in the States? Because every time I go to the States to see a movie, it's AMC, right?
I don't know it's very regional here. AMC Cinemark, well, actually it might have bought it by AMC. Regal Cinemas, sure, I'm forgetting somebody else. It's very similar to like cable companies here, where you're either like on Spectrum or you're on Comcast Xfinity.
Right.
So I don't actually know which one's bigger, but I do feel like AMC is pretty well known nationally. But again, it's very regional. Yeah,
we used to have AMCs here until Cineplex kicked their butts or whatever, or bought them. Right?
Which was a shame, because the AMCs were the best theaters here until Cineplex bought them up.
Yeah. So anyway, and my Amaze pin is from Regent IMAX. So now that you say that. Well, I don't know. How many you haven't given any thoughts to this particular thing? Does it matter?
I mean, it's silly marketing to be like, oh, well, okay, we don't have IMAX, we have this thing. I'm like, it's still useful, I suppose, to point out like, hey, I guess these are the ones that have the good setups. So that might be helpful when you're looking for theaters in general. I don't know that it's great competition with IMAX, though.
Yeah, it's funny. I saw the last movie I saw, the Endgame one. I went by myself, and we were in Hawaii at the time. And I went to this theater that had these super comfortable Barco lounger kind of things, and like you couldn't even see the other people in the theater. They were so comfortable, right? And they were good for a good nap as well. So yeah, because I think I went to a late show, but just that's my experience of seeing Endgame, was this weird theater I was in. Okay, well, I guess that brings us to the main part of the show where we talk about Star something. There's no Star Trek on our agenda today, but we're going to continue talking about the 4 shows we've been talking about, which is Daredevil, Invincible, Star Wars Maul, Shadow Lord, and The Boys. So we'll dig into Daredevil Born Again. Requiem.
Yep.
Episode 6.
Yep.
Season 2.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Who's doing the recap this time? Well, I mean, all kinds of stuff happened in this one.
Yeah. I mean, go for it, Jonathan.
No, you go ahead on this one, Jaime.
I don't know that I have.
No, after you.
I don't know that I have a great recap, but it is interesting that 2 episodes ago we thought, oh, Vanessa's surely dead, right? And it's like, no, actually, she's not. In the episode that Tim and I covered, and then this one I was like, okay, no, she's like for real, she's dead now, right? And you see the aftermath, and it kind of makes sense, right? The Requiem name here, and Fisk just becoming more and more unhinged in his trauma.
Yeah, and Karen too. I mean, Karen as well, like sort of her issues with wanting to kill Bullseye, right? So
yeah, this one is definitely.
Oh, and we had a special guest appearance we forgot about.
That's true. This one was definitely a weird follow-up, because the last episode was kind of quiet. Like, yes, there was the whole sort of Matt helping Bullseye escape and all that stuff, but like the flashbacks to Vanessa and Fisk, and her in the hospital, and then this one is just like a raging fire. It starts with Fisk murdering the surgeon who tried to save her, which seems like just a little excessive. And then it's kind of a banger from there. The people attack Jessica Jones at her house with her daughter there. So not only do we get the return of Jessica Jones, but we get the revelation of her daughter, which is a character that has existed in the comics for a long time. Conspicuously, they do not mention who the baby daddy is, but I guess that's probably coming, so I won't get too far into that. But it's it's great to see Kristen Ritter back as Jessica Jones. I loved that series. The third one was not the best, but the first 2 were. The first one was lights out, amazing. Second one was good, and the third one was okay. But she just slips back into that leather jacket like she never took it off. It's been 6 years since we've seen her in that in 3rd season, so it's been a while, and so it's great to see her back. and right back at it with Matt, banter, funny, and then the two of them have a pretty cool action scene where they go in and destroy the weapons cache that has been sort of this MacGuffin for the season. All the stuff that came in on the boat, they basically blow up the warehouse full of armaments, and and then we sort of get this. Just you could feel the tension of this episode. It was really well paced, and it really ratcheted up as it went along. So we get that. We get the tension of Buck Cashman telling Blake to give a false lead to BB to see if she's going to fall for it, and she almost does. So we're like, oh, is she going to get into hot water here? So that kind of ratchets it up, and then we get the whole the protests outside City Hall, and that the tension there is ratcheting up, and the masks are going on, and you can just feel like the whole thing is going to boil over, and then you get this huge knockdown, drag out fight between Fisk and Murdoch, which was pretty awesome, like really well made. Again, like one of the things that I always struggled with, having read the comics so much over the years, is Kingpin is supposed to be a regular person, but he's supposed to be immensely strong and just a huge human being, and just immensely strong but quick for his size. And Matt even says that in one of their first fights, is like, how can something so big move so fast? And I thought in this fight they really captured just that sense of D'Onofrio as Fisk, just this menacing, huge feeling. It was almost like fighting some kind of robot or something. He's furious and he's just swinging. At one point he swings and he misses and he just knocks bricks off the wall. Like he's just this monster of a man. And honestly, it just immediately took me back to the 1980s Frank Miller stuff. That sense of like, wow, this guy is scary. They did a really great job of that, I thought. And then, really, yeah, just of course, the story culminating with, not just that fight, but with the chaos outside City Hall, which leads to Officer Powell arresting Karen, right? So now we've got 2 episodes to go with, this new wrinkle of, after all this, now Karen's in hot water.
Yeah, I mean, and sort of the one thing I kind of asked about in my mind was, because when Daredevil shows up to fight Fisk, he just says, I thought I'm surprised. He refers to it as Murdoch right away. So Kingpin knows he's Murdoch. Why isn't, is that why he's on the wanted list or whatever? Or are they looking for Karen and Matt and Murdoch? Or because he's not, is he letting the rest of the world know that he knows that Daredevil is Matt Murdoch?
So they basically are at a détente, right? Like, in theory, they could both ruin one another if they just released everything. But they basically, Kingpin says, you do that, and I'm going scorched earth, and I'm killing everyone because he knows who's going to hurt him the most. And by contrast, you get the opposite side where, Matt could do the same thing, releasing all of that. So they are kind of in a stalemate. And so that's what's kind of the beauty and the elegance of their rivalry and their animosity, is that they just hate each other's guts, but they kind of are holding each other in check. Like no one really has the upper hand, because if Fisk goes too far, Murdoch will go, they can't. There's always this balance between them that keeps them from going too far on each other, right?
Yeah, and that's where Matt says, his deal is we'll both leave, and then then this doesn't have to blow up the way it's going to blow up, right?
But yeah, no, it was that fight scene alone was worth the price of admission on this one. But like I say, I thought it was a really well paced episode. They did a good job of, it starts out in the wake of the death, and then you see Fisk, and you're like, well, how's he going to react to this? And he just immediately murders the surgeon. And you're like, oh, okay, so this is going to go badly for all involved. And it just continues to ratchet up as the episode goes on. That was really well made.
Yeah, with the big bear hug. I didn't think the doctor was wise to try and hug Fisk.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, the idea of murdering like the foremost brain surgeon in New York, the world, whatever it's supposed to be, this guy was supposed to be, I'm like, feels a little bit like smashing a Picasso or something. I don't know, just not ideal. Not ideal. No. What else stood out to you guys? Was there any? I thought the stuff even with the stuff with Blake and BB was pretty good this week, because again, that seemed to be coming to a head, right?
Yeah, the baby pin arc, or perhaps min pin, as I've kind of thought about it as well.
Yeah. So
so we got 2 more episodes to go here.
Yeah. Who do you think was it that is she's communicating with? They never really do make that clear. Like she types a message and then she decides no, she's not going to send the message, and then she does.
There was a name on the phone.
There was
a name, Langley or something like that, or whatever.
Yeah, I didn't catch it, but I did notice that there was a name on there, but I didn't know who that was supposed to be. But then we see, obviously, in the previous episode, she does leak the information about Vanessa's health, right? So.
Oh, did she? Okay, yeah.
Well, because the only person that
part where she leaked it.
The only person that like tells is her, and then it's on the news a few minutes later, but we don't know that that's necessarily her, right? Well,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's true, except that he is basically there, and she's pretty protected, so she's thinking like Vanessa is pretty protected up there, so he thinks the only person that must know is BB, so that's why he gets really sketchy about it, right?
Well, it sounds like Buck Cashman suspects her as well, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I felt jealous of you two last week. You got to do the take him out to the woods and give him the power. So you want the shovel or the saw? That was Jaime made me laugh out loud during that your recap of that one. Like, I'm picking shovel. Yeah, I get it. Yep, 100%. I'm with you, Jaime. 100% shovel team.
I mean, the thing I'm sure when Xavier gets around to listening to this episode, he's going to have the same question I had. Is like, he didn't charge the battery before 100%, he used the saw.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
You don't just go to a store and use the 20% that they leave on the shelf, right? So,
yep. Can you imagine? You'd be like, oh, we only got 2 arms off. What are we going to do with the rest of this?
Right.
Also, why do they need to dismember this guy? He's like, a foreign national. They drove him out into the woods. Do they need to cut him up too? It seemed a little excessive.
Yeah. Well, it's for impact, I guess.
Yes. I'll be curious to see. We got 2 episodes left. We did get Jessica, but we didn't get a lot of Jessica in this one. And she kind of says, like, peace out at the end. I wonder if we're going to see any more of the Defenders from the Netflix series pop up, or if they're saving some of that for season 3, or how this is going to come together. Because it feels like they're kind of building towards something. And we know we're getting that Punisher special. We know we're getting Amazing Spider-Man, or the Spider-Man Brand New Day that's coming this summer. And we're going to get that. And we know Punisher's in it. We know it's set in New York. So maybe there's a Daredevil universe crossover. Maybe Fisk is the mayor. Who knows? It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah. Well, let's wait next week and the week after to find out. Yeah.
Now, a word from our sponsor. Now, back to the show.
All right, we'll move on to the show notes, or what do you call the card that they show whenever you mention this character's name?
That's right.
Doesn't work on a podcast. Let's talk about Invincible.
Yeah.
Anyway, season 4, episode 8. Now, I didn't know this was I didn't catch. I mean, it's the last one, and they just kind of leave it on a cliffhanger. So,
well, they leave it on a cliffhanger, but it's kind of it's not a small cliffhanger. Like, it has to be something that you couldn't just resolve this in one episode. It has to be carried over to the next season too, right? Too big for that.
You mean the Oliver plot line, or
no? I mean the Viltrumite plot line.
Oh yeah. Where are they?
Yeah.
It's interesting because Mark, yeah, he goes through a whole sort of PSD thing, throughout the entire episode. Every time he turns a corner, there's like Viltrumites pulling people apart, and then he realizes, somebody goes, Mark, and he realizes that it's all in his head, right? So
yeah, I mean, his, not surprisingly, I mean, the arc in the books is literally called the Viltrumite War, and this is a war. Like, he has witnessed the trauma to both himself. Like, he was damaged so badly in his one fight that he took months to recover. And then they have this other massive fight where they destroyed a planet. His little brother got his face knocked off and his arm ripped off. His dad got, run through. Several other characters got killed. Like, this is the horrors of war. This is 100% why you get PTSD. So it's not surprising. And I thought pretty well handled that he's just a mess, because he would be.
Surprising it was only 4 months, because I thought when they portrayed him recovering, it was like years, or a year,
Yeah. As I think I mentioned before, I think that's the one thing I've always really loved about the comic series that I think they've carried over really well to the show is that time happens in real ways. Like, if they, if Mark needs a month to recover, it's not like done off panel and then he just pops back the next week and he's fine. Like, actions have consequences, tragedy and destruction and all these things, it happens in real time. I mean, this episode, we really haven't even got to the most sort of potentially controversial part of this episode, which was the revelation that Eve gives to Mark when he comes back to Earth, which is, I can tell you why my powers weren't working. It's the fact that I was pregnant and you were gone and I didn't know if you were coming back and I had an abortion. And, for a lot of people, that's still a bit of a taboo subject, which is absurd given that it's a real, women's health issue. But, it certainly was, pretty upsetting. And Mark's reaction of, I'm so sorry that you had to go through this alone, and not like the hysterical, oh, but it was my baby and all that BS that, TV shows may have done in the past. Again, all these things sort of tie together to this sort of reality of like, actions have consequences. They have a sex life, condoms aren't perfect. Things happen, accidental pregnancies happen. And, she's a young woman. She's alone.
Well, he is invincible after all. I mean, there's nothing that can contain him, right?
It's true. Apparently that's true. That Viltrumite's seed is strong, I guess. But, yeah, I thought that was really, really well handled. And again, like, we talk about it sometimes, but like the voice cast on this show is absolutely off the hook good. Stephen Wen, Sandra Oh as Debbie, J.K. Simmons as Nolan, and Gillian Jacobs as Eve. Like, they are so good just using their voices, and in an animation style that it can be very dynamic, but I wouldn't say it's necessarily extremely emotionally ranged. Like, it's not ultra detailed, it's not hyper realistic. So to convey all that using your voice, to give that much gravitas to these characters, it's just such exemplary work. It really is something special.
I didn't know Cecil was Walton Goggins.
Yeah, this cast is insane. Yeah. Every character is unbelievable. Like, they just, even the little tiny bits are just like, I think you mentioned last week, like Zoe Deutsch being Tech Jacket. Like, it's like, what? Like, what? That was unnecessary, but amazing. Like, it's so ridiculous. Jonathan Banks is Brit, like, for a handful. Mark Hamill plays the guy who makes their clothes. Like, he's the costume designer. Like, crazy, crazy good. And yeah, Lee Pace. I mean, we got to come back to Lee Pace, right? As Thrag. Man, what a performance. Like, he's so good. I mean, we obviously were fans of Foundation, but and his role in Guardians, but he's so quietly menacing as Thrag, just has no fear of these people, knows he's stronger, knows he's faster, knows he could take anyone at any time. He just plays with his voice such a quiet, menacing character. I think one of you mentioned last week, he just kind of like slaps Mark at one point last week, and he's just like, you annoy me, you gnat. Like, he's just so absolutely chillingly calm in these episodes, and until even when they destroy the planet, then he kind of loses it, and that's why we end up with those pretty severe injuries. But holy smokes, like, what a great performance by that guy too. And that final scene where the two of them are sort of floating high above the clouds and having that discussion about, hey, here's the deal. I can kill you, your planet, and everyone you've ever known or met, including every single species on this entire planet, or you can say, okay, fine, and we're going to start repopulating our species here. Because clearly it works, because you're good at this. So guess what? We're going to go and start spreading our seed throughout your planet until eventually this becomes New Viltrum, which is a real, like, what's Mark supposed to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then, the coda to the episode and the season is the last will and testament of Thetis, who leaves a little gift behind for Alan, right? So he has the perfected version of the Scourge virus that can kill all Viltrumites, no holds barred. So
yeah, including our boy,
including all of the above. So yeah, I think this is a really interesting place to end the season and set the stage for, where do you go from here? You've got Nolan and Debbie off planet, and you've got Oliver out of action, and you've got, the Viltrumites basically, roaming amongst the people. I did laugh really hard with is Krieg, I think is the guy's name, the one guy with the eye patch. He was like, hanging outside a biker bar picking up girls.
Yeah. His name is already like Craig, so he's pretty good. He's pretty ready to go. Doesn't have a weird name like Thrag. It's gonna be hard to translate.
Yeah. I did want to circle back to something from last week too. They had the piece with Emperor Argal, the former Craig's former boss. They didn't make a big deal of it, but the voice of Argal was Frank Welker. So for people who don't know, Frank Welker was the voice of Megatron in the Transformers, and he was also the voice of Fred on Scooby-Doo. He's an iconic voice actor for the last 50 years, but particularly important because you literally had Optimus Prime versus Megatron and one killed the other, which was a nice little comeback on that one. I thought that was well played. You kind of had to listen for it, and I heard the voice and I'm like, I wonder who that was. I looked it up and I'm like, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So were you guys happy with, this season was pretty dynamic. A lot of, again, a lot of action, a lot of space stuff, pretty intense. Were you happy with the season? Did it work out for you the way you hoped?
I thought it was pretty satisfying as a season. Got some good character arcs, some good humor. Alan has the he's taking over for Thetis, and he says, I think Thetis let Thrag kill him so he didn't have to deal with all of this
paperwork,
bureaucracy stuff.
Yeah.
So, good overall. I haven't thought about my stack ranking of the seasons, but I thought this was pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was good to sort of learn all this stuff about the Viltrumites this turnaround, right? This time around.
Yeah, I mean,
like the whole satellite of dead Viltrumites around the planet, kind of thing.
Yeah, the last episode, the sort of the planet, the assault on Viltrum, where they give you the whole backstory, and then again, the comic books are wonderful. I'm a lifelong fan. I love comic books, and you can do really cool stuff with comic books, but watching the three of them for 3 or 4 minutes of a cartoon episode, have Space Racer shoot a hole and have the three of them basically try to bulldoze through a planet to destroy it was amazing to watch. As an animation versus comic book, that's where those genres really, really escalate. And I had the surround sound on and all turned up, and that was really, really cool to see. Some stuff translates better than others from comics to whether it's an animation or whether it's a film or whatever, but that scene was just off the hook compared to you just can't do that kind of thing in a flat visual medium. And so I was really blown away by that whole scene. And then again, just you can see it again on panels on pages to see Thrag make a quick move and do something, but to have it be animated and you're just like, whoa, there goes Thetis's head, like, whoa, that was fast. It's really kind of amazing to watch something that I've enjoyed so much in book form come to life, but so accurately and vividly. I love this series. I think it's so good.
Well, and they went through my favorite part of any sci-fi story. They went through the planet core.
Through the planet core.
Yes.
Sad that gets us excited.
So, yes, I know. So, Jaime, you have a side note here?
Yeah, so I go into season 5 in pure ignorance, but given where they ended things, I can only assume season 5 is basically the plot from Earth Girls Are Easy, starring Gina Davis, Jeff Goldblum, Jim Carrey, and Damon Wayans. I found that original trailer online and put that here for you all.
You know how old I am, Jaime?
I mean, Craig was already going down the path, right? And maybe the conflict is Anissa clearly will not like, mating with inferior creatures. Because she was like, we didn't talk about it when they went to go fight the Viltrumites. Like, she seemed noticeably impressed at Mark saying, like, yeah, I killed Conquest.
Yep.
Right? So that seemed to get her going there. So getting catcalled by these less powerful, just normal human beings, just I can't see her going along for the plan. Although Craig was like already, he went elbow deep into the pool, I guess.
Yeah, I think it just kind of depends on the character, but yeah, hold on to that one, Jaime. It may come back around, but On a side note to your side note, I'm so old that I actually have the soundtrack to Earth Girls Are Easy on cassette in a box up here. So that's something special. But it's I'm not going to spoil anything, but if it continues to be fairly faithful, it's not perfectly faithful, but quite faithful to the story that Kirkman and Notley and Corey Walker wrote and created. It's going to be another great season coming up. There are no bad ones. Like it all continues, and as I say, there's a real evolution to it. Like actions have consequences. They destroyed that planet, and that was a heck of a moment. But the Viltrumites are there, and they're for real. Like this is not like going to get swept under the rug. These are the most powerful beings that exist on the planet, and they are there for a reason.
All right, let's move on to Star Wars Maul, Shadow Lord. The Inquisition, where the Empire has arrived and, taken over, and Night of the Hunted.
Stupid two boots.
Yeah, stupid two boots, yes. I didn't notice until this episode that he's actually wearing different boots than everybody else.
Well, and they tell him to take them off. Those aren't regulation. You can't wear boots if you're a robot.
Yeah,
It makes you wonder who gave him boots in the first. Was this like somebody's idea of a joke? They're like, what if we made him put boots on?
Yeah, people do it to pets, or unless you're like me and you go with just a caseless phone, take a look at your phone and say, what is on that one? How does that iPhone differ from everybody else's? This one has the Hello Kitty case, or this one has, the pop socket case.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Here you got your droid, and I forget what model of droid he is, but you put some boots on it. That's your droid.
Yeah, I guess. You'd think it would be, I guess it's kind of the point is, like, if they're all robots, it's kind of a statement on police in general. But, yeah.
Isn't he 2BTO or something like that?
Yeah. So this one is notable because not only are the Empire here in this episode, but it's the Inquisitor, right? Marok, who we've met before. Marok, Marrok, Marok. And this is a character we've seen before. He was in Ahsoka season 1 in live action. So this is one of the legendary Inquisitors that are hunting down the remainder of the last of the Jedi. And their mission is genuinely not to, like, they're not doing what Maul's doing and toying with them and trying to convert them. They're there to murder them. Their orders are from the Emperor, and their orders are to kill every last Jedi and Padawan. So the stakes have definitely increased in this episode.
But he's after Maul too, though, right?
He is. But again, the idea is that, the Emperor basically wants to control Force users. There shall be no Force users that don't work for me.
Oh, I got it. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, the first one was really just kind of a big, getaway episode. They were basically trying to, like, go on the lam and hide from the Empire and trying to get their way out of town, and they can't, right? They're trying their best. And then, Marok is basically traveling around the city looking for evidence and trying to track them down. And the first one ends with Devin and Dacky basically sneaking into the cop's house and trying to find a way to get out of town, hoping that they can, trust Lawson.
Yeah. The cop.
Yeah. And then that continues over to the second episode, where basically, they think they're sort of, they've come to this place thinking they're going to be fine, and it's really not, because the Marok and all of the Empire basically show up outside the door and are, firing holes in buildings and, not playing nicely. I did think that the part with Two Boots where he's like, the Empire's here, they're going to help fix everything. It was just like the most sadly naive, like, I got to admit, Tim, I think you made a really good point last week talking about the totality of all these shows, both, Daredevil and Invincible to an extent, really Maul, and definitely The Boys. The Boys and Daredevil are very prescient and very of the time that we live in. They anticipated the acts of the rise of fascism, the acts of terrorism of populations and stuff like that we are living through pretty accurately. And in this case, it's exactly that. It's basically this massive overreach of the imperial government to not just, try and apprehend people. They're like scorched earth. They're shooting at people. They're blowing things up. They don't care who's caught in the crossfire. And so basically it's Lawson and Dacky and Devin and Riley trying to escape, and then strangely Maul coming to their rescue. So
well, he wants Devin to be his apprentice, right? Or
yeah, that's clearly his play is, and it's funny because we've seen that happen like 3 times now, right? Like it's weird that that's kind of his pattern for somebody who's so angry and just so mad at the universe. He just has this need for like connection and this desire for, you know, to cling to the rule of 2, even though it didn't work out for him very well at all.
Well, it's an interesting character because he's not like pure evil. Like he's not like Darth Vader, who's just like everybody. He's like it's black and white in the original Star Wars movies, right? But because you know they did the redemption arc with him in Jedi, right, in the Return of the Jedi. But the way he sort of plays, I mean, because when you first see him in Phantom Menace, he's just like a badass, right? And you know the amazing fight between him and Obi-Wan and
well, he doesn't say anything, right?
Right?
He's not talking during all that. He's just this menacing, scary looking guy who does like triple flips and has a double-sided lightsaber, right?
But then his arc in Rebels and in Clone Wars, right? Kind of like as he sort of evolved as a secondary character and then became sort of a primary character, and now this is obviously his show, right? And the fact that he's not just like, you know, I'm just going to slice Devin in half because I'm a bad guy, right? Mm-hmm. He's like, he sees potential in her. He can see that, and again, he sort of knows in the same sense that it's pretty much a gray area. You can either be closer to the dark side or closer to the light side. There's really not that much different between them, other than, you know, your ethics and your morals, the kind of thing, I guess. Right? It's kind of like the one thing I remember from Adam Baldwin. No, who's the main Baldwin guy?
Alec?
Actor.
Alec
Baldwin. Yeah, he said once on the Actor Studio that when you're a bad guy, you don't think you're a bad guy. You are doing what you think is right, and that when Maul kind of like talks to Devin, that's how I kind of see him as. You know, he thinks he's doing the right thing, even though in his mind, right? Even though to her it's so, you know, she just can't stomach it, right?
I'm what stood out to you here? We got, you know, some pretty good pew pew through these ones, but we also got you know, some pretty good, you know, just sort of creepy, you know, the Maruk is such a quiet character. Maul's sort of conniving. Like what sort of rose above for these 2 episodes for you?
You know, I think the thing I'll echo is Tim talking about Maul, that, like, you know, he's done with what is it, Vario, that he has captive. Yeah. And he could just murder him, right? Like, all right, I'm done with it. He's like, yeah, bro, you can hang around if you want or don't. Like, I don't care. Your part in this plot is done, and so just get out of my way, kid. Is kind of the thing. So that's more depth than the dual lightsaber attack dog that he kind of was in the Phantom Menace. So I think I'll echo what Tim said there, that stood out to me as well. And then I definitely enjoyed the 3-way lightsaber battle between the Inquisitor, Devin, and Darth Maul, and the wiseness of Devin saying, yeah, I guess at least Maul didn't explicitly try to kill me, so let's work together with him to try to kill the other guy, the Inquisitor, and then we'll deal with this battle later, you know. So I thought that was pretty well done, and it's pretty visually engaging how they fight on the train, and then, you know, disconnect the caboose part of it to leave the Inquisitor to fight another day and shake his fist at them, you know. So it was good because we've got 4 episodes left, right?
Yeah, 2 weeks and 4 episodes, yeah, and all culminating coincidentally on May the 4th.
So I will be around. Sorry, Dig, you'll have to deal with this, Tim. So I told Tim, "Oh man, I'm gonna be missing next week for a work trip. I'll miss the end of Maul." But apparently, no, I will just miss the next 2 episodes of Maul. I thought it was an 8-episode season. Apparently, it's 10. So no problem.
Okay, 2 more coming or 4 more coming?
4 more. Yeah.
Whereas I'm going to be frustrated that I may not be able to make the last one for 9 and 10 because I will be away for work.
Well, who knows?
But we know we're going to get.
It's in the future.
We know we're going to get another season, so they're not going to wrap it up too neatly.
Let's get on with the next show, which is The Boys, right?
it was weird because it was kind of a bottle episode for the boys. Like they go to this place looking for the last of the V1, but it all kind of happens in this one place. I don't know if this was like, hey, we're doing this huge last season, we need to save money somewhere, so we'll do one episode that's in like one location. But
yeah, and yet they didn't have a big battle. Like, they kind of met each other, but yeah, they sort of. I mean, other than spraying, like Frenchie sprays his followers with the deer urine, I guess that's to throw Homelander off the scent, literally.
He literally walks into the building and says, it smells like deer pee in here. Like,
well, when Firecracker walks into his room, he goes, "You smell different." And she's like, "Oh yeah, it's this new cologne." He goes, "No, it's my dad."
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie Billy Jack, but have you seen, do you know about Billy Jack?
I know it, but I've never seen it.
So there's he has this woman that he doesn't have a relationship with her, but there's kind of she's a school teacher and she's, teaching the kids on the reservation and stuff like that. And Sandra Locke, I think it's her, or somebody like that. And she gets raped by the bad guy, right? And Billy Jack walks into the room and he bends over and he stands up and he looks at her like as if he, like Homelander, got the scent kind of thing, right? Yeah, it's kind of a weird scene. But yeah, anyway, I just remember that from being like 13 and seeing that. Right?
Yeah, something stick with you.
Yeah. And then, but there's the whole other, the B plot of this is that they're trying to position Homelander as the Messiah, the coming of the next Messiah. And of course they have the religious dude with the religious show who's married to the president.
Vice president.
What is she role?
Yeah, she's the vice president.
Vice president, yeah. And so, they kind of convince him to use his platform to put Homelander out there. I was hoping, well, I don't know, I mean, I knew he was going to get out of it, but Soldier Boy corners or captures Homelander in one of the detention cells at this facility because he knows about it. That's where he was,
that's where he was given his powers
initially,
yeah.
Right? Yeah, and he opens up the doors and lets the radiation in and locks Homelander in this soup-proof room. Like if there's a soup-proof room, why aren't they using that more and more? Why don't they take that technology out with them? Right?
Well, he makes a point of saying it won't hold you forever, but it's going to feel like the worst cold you've ever had or something, right? Like your worst flu you've ever had.
Okay, yeah.
There's basically enough radiation to make him sick and weak. So he will get out, and we do see that eventually, but it does make him feel terrible.
Yeah, true. Yeah, he's fully healed by the time he gets back to the end of the show, right? Yeah, meanwhile, so there was this, I didn't get the name of the character, but they see this. I love the line. It was one of my favorite. There's a couple of favorite lines in this one, but the one is where somebody says it's kind of like Last of Us.
Yeah.
And somebody says no, it's just Walking Dead with mushrooms.
yeah. It's a pretty good inside gag because again, most people who are watching The Boys have probably watched those shows. Quinn, I think, is the character's name. Yeah.
There's all these vines that are all over the place, and the effect of, I guess, whatever spores are in the air makes everybody start fighting. And so you've got all these infights, like, a Butcher and Mother's Milk and Huey and all fighting. Huey and Annie, I think, fight. No, Annie goes home to her parents.
That's
or her father,
the subplot
right?
for this one is, she's got this whole arc of her because she bails when she thinks that Huey almost died in the last episode, and then she ends up turning up, and Tim Daly's her dad, which is pretty cool too. We haven't seen Tim Daly in a while.
Yeah, and he played Neil Armstrong in From Earth to the Moon. But it was pretty interesting. Again, like they're in the same set. How do they not know that they're no footprints or whatever, or like they're playing with the time kind of thing? But yeah, and then Frenchie's the only one that's impervious. Oh, is Miko and Kimiko and somebody else is fighting, right?
And she's chasing Frenchie. They're all kind of like paired off and fighting because the idea is that this Quinn character also got powers, but his powers basically turned him into this giant kind of pile of toxoplasmosis, right?
Yeah.
Basically a giant piece of cat poop.
Yeah, and then because that's what Frenchie calls it, right? But we get the scene where Soldier Boy finally gets. I guess he's in the same room with him and just uses whatever his power is to scorch the guy, right? And that solves the problem of this effect, right?
He basically, he ends up murdering him. Yeah, it was an interesting one because, we've seen Soldier Boy as this, again, I think Jaime, you called it last week. He's just the most disgusting human being. Like he's a racist. He's a homophobe. He's a misanthrope. He's a misogynist. He's the worst person. Not just a product of his era, but somebody who seemed to enjoy the era in which he was living. And, obviously he's ticked off after what Homelander pulled on him, essentially leaving him to die. He decides to get his revenge by, he's going to go not just put Homelander into this box where he's going to have a really crappy afternoon, but he says, I'm going to go find this V1. I'm going to destroy it so you have no chance of surviving if this thing gets loose. And then he runs into Quinn, and it, of course, brings back these horrible memories of being tortured. And then he ends up killing Quinn. But, he actually does seem pretty kind of affected by, being back in this place where he was transformed, seeing this other guy who, even though he hated him, still is just, it's still a really sort of traumatic memory. And then, he basically has his powers go off, which he always, it only happens when he loses control, right? So that's pretty upsetting for him. But and you're right. I think the B plot and the C plot are kind of interesting. The B plot is the whole, can we sell, not just is he the Messiah, can we sell him as the Messiah? The whole idea of the Daveed Diggs character, the Oh Father is the name of the character, who is going to try and basically like reinvigorate money coming into the church by, proclaiming that he's the Messiah. Again, talk about prescience. What kind of madman goes out there and tells everybody he's the Messiah and starts putting pictures of him out there healing people and
and makes people read the Bible in like live, like the latest thing. Craziness.
I mean, these shows are all kind of really on the money as far as reading the room and understanding that there's a moment here. It's funny because we talk about, some of these eras that we can look back on and reflect in totality, like the 1970s. It was a tumultuous time. There were issues with, civil rights. There were issues with human rights. There were issues with politics and criminality and government and all these different things. And that led to a series of really interesting movies. We got, The Parallax View. We got Manchurian Candidate. We got 3 Days of the Condor. We got All the President's Men. We got like all these movies that were really of that time, the paranoia thrillers and stuff like that. I think if you can step back just a little bit, you don't have to look very hard to see that these shows are artists' reflections of society. These are people who were worried about it. And you're right. I think last week you both talked about the fact that these are shows that, obviously had to be in production last year in a lot of cases. But I think these artists who create these shows, whether it's the writers or the showrunners, the directors, the actors, they all kind of have something to say about the moment that we're living through right now. And it is just dripping off of shows like Daredevil and The Boys and even Maul and Invincible. Like Maul is about what it's like to live under an authoritarian regime. Like that's what that is. So, all of these things really have something to say. But I mean, The Boys and Daredevil in particular, The Boys has just been so genius for years now as far as doing this. But again, they are so far ahead of their skis on this stuff. It's amazing.
And we had a scene there where I keep wanting to call him Fish Boy, the Deep and the Deep and Noir 2 have a conversation, and one of my favorite lines is he says it's a doggy dog world.
Doggy dog world.
Yeah, is that how you think it goes?
That phrase goes. The bit with them on their podcast also with the soundboard made me laugh out loud. That was very funny. The Deep doubling down on the bro culture stuff with like playing Limp Bizkit while driving the Cybertruck, and just all of that just had me in stitches. I'm like, yep, totally checks out 100%. Yeah, crazy to think there's only 5. This is halfway point of the season. We're into 4. There are 4 more to go. I mean, this series has been such a unique experience for so many years. It's crazy to think it's gonna be over in 4 weeks. Well, they've already announced they're going to do a prequel series with the origin of the original characters from the 40s. So
okay, like Soldier Boy. And
Yeah,
stuff,
I don't think I've given up on this franchise anytime soon, just because there's money to be made.
Are we ready to go roll into our watch list stuff?
Well, in the words of Limp Bizkit, rollin', 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 rollin'.
One of my favorite characters from Saturday Morning was the Coyote, and you think that the Coyote's trying to get the Roadrunner, but his real enemy is the Acme Corporation. And we have now a whistleblower type movie coming out where it's a mix of animation and real people, like real life, like what do you call it? Actual people, live action. Sorry, that's what I'm looking for. And basically, it's the Coyote versus Acme lawsuit movie, like where the Coyote keeps blowing himself up, and he's taking Acme to court. Finally, did you guys watch any of this one at all, or?
Yeah, I enjoyed Foghorn Leghorn as the presumed CEO, dirty CEO of Acme. Doesn't want the real information to get out. It makes it really clear to John Cena.
Yeah, I mean,
yes, and of course John Cena in it too.
It was a fun trailer, but I don't know if you saw the sort of advanced thing they did with Will Forte, where he was basically talking about like this movie was shelved, right? This was one of the movies that. This was supposed to be a movie that was going to be put out in the theater a couple years ago. Warner Brothers decided, alongside the Batgirl movie and a few other things, that they were going to shelve this stuff as tax write-offs, and they were basically never to see the light of day. And then here they have come a couple years later and changed their mind. So I'm glad that this is coming out. I don't know that I would go see it in the movie theater, but I will probably watch it at some point. But it does kind of make me, I was watching the trailer and being like, oh, wow, I never thought I'd actually see this, given that they made such a big production out of the fact that they were going to bury it. I'm looking forward to seeing if this finally does mean we might get the Batgirl movie finally out there, too.
Interesting, yeah. Well, speaking of another favorite character of mine, I really liked Robin Hood when I was a kid, like those Rocket Robin Hood and the whole Robin Hood series of movies and things like that, TV shows and stuff. And so I'm calling this one, this is The Death of Robin Hood, starring Hugh Jackman. But to me, minus Patrick Stewart, it looks exactly like Logan 2.
I was wondering why you had that in the show notes.
I clicked on the link when you put it in there. So for those transporting at home, in our show notes, Tim listed this as trailer for Logan 2 on YouTube, and I was like, Logan 2? What's that? Clicked on it, and it was the trailer for The Death of Robin Hood. And yep, he's not wrong.
Anyway, so those are my two picks. I have one more thing, but I'll talk about it later.
Couple quickies for me. So today's the day that Stranger Things Tales from 85 dropped on Netflix. This is an animated story that is set during the sort of the windows of time that weren't covered on Stranger Things. So the idea is that the gang are all there. They're a little younger. This is supposed to be back when they're, still in Hawkins. Things are weird and dark, but they're not like Vecna level bad yet. And so they're telling sort of a different adventure here. I took a quick look at I watched the trailer when it initially came out. I took a quick look at it today on Netflix. I didn't watch the whole, it's 10 episodes, so I'm not that ambitious. It's kind of a little bit Clone Wars-y in that it's got sort of a more humanish looking, but cartoony versions of the characters. I was particularly struck, though, when I looked at the cast list for it, that not a single one of the voice actors is the original actor. Now, obviously, that makes sense to an extent because this is supposed to be when they were kids, and now all the kids are adults. So obviously, it would be hard to ask them to go back and play the younger versions of themselves when they don't sound like that anymore. So maybe it's easier just to have someone else do it. But also felt like, well, now it just seems a little cheaper or something. It just doesn't seem as
direct to DVD kind of thing.
Yeah, it's got that vibe. It really does. It does. So your mileage may vary. I will probably check out the first one and see if it takes and if I want to continue down that road. I mean, it makes sense. There's worlds, there's stories to be told in that world that make sense. So maybe this could be good, but yeah, we'll take a cautious approach on this one.
There's a question I was going to ask you about this, but now I can't remember what it is. But
well,
anyway,
if it pops in your head, you ask it, and if not, we'll talk about it in the after show. The other thing I want to mention is that by the time you hear this, we will be on the cusp of Free Comic Book Day 2026. That's coming on May the 2nd, which is coming up very quickly. This is a terrific day to go out and support your local comic book stores, and they will in turn support you by giving you, in most cases, a few. Some places they limit you to one. Most places will give you a few. Some places will give you a bunch of free comic books that are published for that day. No, that does not mean you can go in and ask for the expensive books behind the wall. You have to just take the ones that have been published for this event. But it's a great way to jump into comic books if you aren't necessarily a big reader. It's a great opportunity to take kids. They are always comics that are catered to different levels of audience. There can be as many, I think in the last few years, there's been like 30 plus different books that have come out that day. So you know, all the different publishers are usually put out a book, and then some of them put out multiple books. So, you know, and some of the companies use this as an event day so they can kick off stories. So you might get like a Batman story that continues into the comic world, like the regular series, or Spider-Man or something like that. A few years ago, the first part of Secret Wars, which is going to be the next Avengers film, started as a Free Comic Book Day comic. Secret Wars #0 came out as a Free Comic Book Day comic. So you were in on the ground floor of that. There's been some really great ones over the years that, and some of these books that you get for nothing are now actually quite valuable because this is an event that's been going on for a long time. So you never know. And so go down there, get a free comic, do yourself a favor and buy something while you're there, because we need to support local comic stores. Otherwise, there won't be any left. And hopefully you have a good time, and join our Slack channel where you can go on there and tell us what you got.
Yeah. So I was going to ask, were you able to take advantage of Record Store Day, or?
I didn't, because I had just gotten back from a trip last week. You two were speculating on what I was doing with my time. My wife just started a new job this week, so last week we went away for a few days to the beautiful city of Montreal. We went to go see the wonderful band Florence and the Machine, and we had a nice romantic 3 days away, and I got back Friday night late, so I didn't really feel like driving to the closest one. It would have been an hour and a half away to get to a store that was even doing anything. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to pass on it this year. I did take a look at the list to see if there's anything I want. There's always great records for Record Store Day, but they're super expensive. So yeah.
Are they? Okay.
Yeah, like some of them. I
thought they were free or something.
No. They put out sort of exclusive editions for the day, but they're pretty contemporarily priced. So if it's like a picture disc, or it's did you see? I'll send you the link. The Peter Gabriel picture disc that came out this year is amazing. It's one of those the eye puzzles. So when it spins on your record player, it spins around and you can see it's basically all the animation scenes from Sledgehammer.
Oh, I saw that on the Facebook or something. I saw it was like a GIF or something. Yeah,
there's a name for that. I want to say zoetrope, but it's not zoetrope. There's a name for that, for the type of it. Yeah, it plays basically. It's an extended single of Sledgehammer, and then it's got this beautiful visual effect on it. So you see all these clips from the 1980s video on there. It's beautiful record. I think it was like $60 or something. I'm like, again, beautiful. Do I want to spend $60 on it? Not so much.
Yeah, plus you have to have a record player.
And you have to actually make sure your store is going to get at least one. And then, I think the store in St. John down here in New Brunswick said there was 150 people lined up outside to get the exclusives that came out that day. And in the shop, they were only getting like 10 copies of each thing. So like, yeah.
It reminds me of one of these little known facts. I don't know if you remember CD discs, right? Peter Gabriel I have one here somewhere in my vault that has Peter Gabriel with like a QuickTime VR thing on it, which nobody can play anymore, right?
Yeah, I have.
Unless you have an old Mac,
I have a few of those. I have I think Sarah McLachlan. There's a few over the years that had extra stuff, which is just not a thing anymore.
Multimedia stuff. Yeah. Well, I mean, I have old Macs I can play them on, but yeah, most people can't, right? So this next one I kind of seen, and it sparked an interest in me to start watching the show from the very first episode.
Yeah, Malcolm in the Middle, Life's Still Unfair. I got around to watching this. It is it's technically 4 episodes. It's not really like a season or a miniseries so much as it is kind of like a movie in 4 parts. That's kind of how it felt. It's the same story, the same plot line of adult Malcolm dealing with his family or not dealing with his family as you sort of start the series again and catch up on what's been going on. I thought it was fun. There's definitely a lot of callbacks and cameos. I think it has about the right blend of being like the King of the Hill continuation of like, is it exactly the same? No, but it's kind of hard to recapture all of that era and the context for when that show came out. But feels like a very satisfying continuation of a show that's had like a decade and a half break, 20 years break. I forget how long it's been.
Yeah, the parents are really good. I mean, Bryan Cranston is like, we all know him as Heisenberg now, right? But he really fell back into the role in a sense, right? And who's the little kid, Huey or Dewey? What's the youngest kid's
Dewey.
name?
Well, the beginning of the show's youngest was Dewey. That's right. But then there's a couple other siblings later.
Yeah, but the actor, I saw an interview with Frankie Muniz, and he said that the actor just like when he was done with that show, he was done with acting, and so when they asked him to come back, he said, "No, I'm not interested at all." And so they had another actor who was passable, but like just kind of seemed odd the way they just sort of have him on a Zoom call all the time, right? Sort of thing. Yeah, it was good. And like I said, I'm like on episode 3 of the very first. I watched the pilot and watched a couple of more episodes and catching up because I'm sure there was a lot of stuff in the show that I didn't get because I didn't really watch it very often back when I had a life. Oh yeah, and there's one more thing. That's me. So Jon Favreau was on Kimmel a couple of nights ago, and he showed, if you're interested, a exclusive clip to the Mandalorian Grogu movie, which is like it's a chunk of the actual show, or the actual movie itself, as opposed to the trailers that we've seen so far. And he was talking to Kimmel about Scorsese playing a character in there, and credited, of course, and then Robert Downey Jr.'s role in the upcoming Avengers movie, which we talked about earlier. So talked about that a bit, and how they're going to have him come back, and the death of Iron Man, and how it made everybody, including Jon Favreau, sad. And then he said he gave a spoiler for the Spider-Man movie coming out, and it's that Jon Favreau's not in it.
Oh, no Happy Hogan?
Well, he doesn't remember him. That's what he says, right? So
yeah, I guess that would make sense.
He resets and he doesn't remember anybody that he knew from back in the day, right? So cool. All right. Well, I guess that's it for another week. So, hey, Jonathan, people want to get in touch with you. Where would they find you?
Well, you can start looking on our Slack channel. That's a place where we like to share our nerdy, fun stuff. Outside of that, maybe Instagram, I'm at JPK News, or on the I'm at JPK.
All right. And Jaime, if people want to get in touch with you, where do they find you?
I'm on Instagram as @DevWithTheHair.
Well, my name is Tim Mitra, TIMMITRA, and I can be found on Bluesky and on Mastodon and on Threads and Instagram by that handle. And I just want to say one more thing before we go. I shared this with the guys on our Slack channel. We have a private conversation that we have between the three of us, and we hit roughly 2,000 listeners or 2,000 listens per month, which is double what we did last year. So thanks for listening, and thanks for hopefully enjoying the show, and tell your friends about it. So until next time, we'll see you in the future. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye.
You've been listening to the Spotcast podcast. If you want to find out more about the podcast or see the episode show notes, visit the Spotcast website at spotcast.com. If you have feedback or questions, you can get in touch with us on the website. If you like the show, please consider recommending us to a friend, writing a review on iTunes, or pledging any amount at patreon.com/spotcast. You can find details on how to help us on our website, spotcast.com/sponsor us. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the future.
much content we have right now. I loving this stretch of having a bunch of things, and it's gonna peter out in a couple of weeks. We're gonna be down to like very little again. We'll have to dip back into Star Trek the animated series again, and we only have 4 episodes left to do. So two more Spotcasts will take care of it. Although I canceled my Paramount subscription, so I'll have to bust out the DVDs if we want to start watching it again.
Yeah, I think I'm a little bit behind on. I was ahead of you guys for a while, and then you caught up and surpassed. So I'm probably behind by a couple of episodes to catch up to where we're at.
Yeah, I don't. I can't say I'm enjoying it as much as it's nostalgic and it's kitschy, but I think I'm going to be ready for this one to be in the past, and then we'll have to decide if there's something else that we want to do. Are we ready for something really daring, like a rewatch of one of the original series, or TNG, or the movies, or that could all be pretty fun stuff.
Yeah, that's a good point, because it's going to be a while, right, before we get. I don't think we even have a date for Strange New Worlds yet, do we?
No, they haven't announced it yet. Which I think we were all kind of expecting it to be late summer, because that sort of follows the windows that they've been doing. But yeah, it's going to be by the first week of May. We finish up Maul, we finish up Born Again, or the Daredevil series. We've already finished Invincible, and then after that, we're kind of the next week we've got The Punisher, we've got The Boys, and then it starts to get a little more spotty. We've got The Boys finale. Mandalorian and Grogu's coming out in the theater, so that's something. And Rick and Morty starts back up again. June is looking a little more sort of spotty. There's movies, but there's no shows, and it's not until July that we're going to get Silos back. And so yeah, it's going to get a little spotty. We might be able to take the occasional week off if we so desire, because I don't think there's going to be a full slate of new programming and no new Trek that's scheduled yet at all. So, I mean, heck, there's only 2 Star Trek shows in the can. After that, we'll have to have a real discussion. And strangely, as strange as this sounds, next year will be our 10th anniversary of doing this. So
time flies.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a strange the way that it'll all sort of land too, because it'll be the final 2 seasons of Star Trek that's in the can. Next year we'll get Academy season 2 and the final 6-episode short season of Strange New Worlds, and they haven't announced anything after that. So hopefully by then, we know we're getting a new Star Trek movie. We talked about that a couple weeks back, and we're still kind of waiting for the shoe to drop on are they going to do the expected Star Trek the early years, kind of transitioning from Strange New Worlds into the Captain Kirk years series. I still think that's the most likely relaunch, because it's got a pretty broad appeal. Doesn't seem like the rumored Star Trek United series, the one that's supposed to follow after Picard, doesn't seem like it's coming together. So I don't know. And who knows what else they're going to cover. Again, they've been talking about doing an Academy series for 35 years. They finally got one, and they canceled it after 2 years. So who knows what they're going to come up with next. I think the interesting thing too is what era are they going to focus on? Are they going to do prequels? Are they going to do sequels? Are they going to do stuff in the 32nd century? Are they going to do stuff in the 25th century? Like, where are we now?
Gotta call it a night, I think.
Alrighty.
Okay. You get rested up.
Talk to you later.
Take care, guys.
Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.